proud to present the Not So Neutral Zone, podcast for armchair enthusiasts by armchair enthusiasts. The opinions expressed on the show are only those of the participants and really nobody else. Also, we do not own the rights to any music played during the episode.
But we like it, and we're going to play it unless we get asked to stop. Then we'll take it away.
I mean, it's not like we make any money off this anyway, so...
This is just...
labor of love.
As we said in the very first episode, we're not getting paid for this. It's just our opinions. It's not really like anybody's saying, hey, here's $1,000 to do it.
Nobody would even give us 2 cents for our opinions, so they're not even worth that.
We're still working on getting our significant others to take us out to dinner or something like that, I guess.
Yeah, why do I always got to cover dinner?
It's the right thing to do.
It's the right thing to do. Yeah.
Plus, our moms probably take us out behind the woodshed if we did.
That was a nice save. All right.
Speaking of saves, baseball. I had an idea because you tested my football knowledge a few episodes back. So I figured I'd give you a little short baseball quiz, and it'll probably take a good chunk of the show to talk about, because with the recent headlines in sports, I'm sick of basketball. It's been over 4 weeks now, and the one star, it seems like, that there is in the league is all anybody wants to talk about, so I'm going to ignore any of that and go with baseball.
But what about LeBron?
Nah, we're done talking about LeBron.
Touch that one? Okay. That's fine. I didn't care to touch it either.
But there's so many other sports we could cover out there, and baseball is the obvious one I want to do. So, you know of any others, or have you had any requests from anybody of anything we should cover? Anything anybody's been upset about?
No, not that I can think of.
I canceled the damn Hunger Games! I don't know. I'm not going to touch that one. What about you?
The Hunger Games had a long tradition of killing innocent children.
There was
Why mess with tradition?
At least 12 kids a year, right? For 74 years?
Well, wasn't there like 2 from each district?
Okay, 24. Well,
23, because you had a winner.
And so you had 23...
For 75 years, I think that's how long they ran.
23 deaths for 74 years, or 73 years. Then you had 22 the final year. So you're sitting there at 75 winners, and then 1 year, everything went...
off the rails.
Yes.
I think it's rigged like wrestling.
But anyway, since we did go off the rails and down a rabbit hole at the same time,
we're pretty good at doing that.
I have a quiz here for you. It's only 3 simple questions.
Oh God, and it's baseball related.
Yes.
My technical baseball knowledge is pretty sound. Now, if it's history of baseball, you're going to lose me a little bit.
Okay, well, you should ace this quiz.
Okay.
Okay. In relation to each position, each position is given a number, 1 through 9.
Okay.
Number 10 is only in softball, and that's for midfield in the outfield, because they use 4 outfielders. What player is designated number 1?
Ooh, that one, I believe, is the pitcher.
Yes.
It took me forever to get that one down. I always wanted to say it was like the first baseman or the catcher.
Number 2 is...
the catcher.
Number 3
is the first baseman.
4
is second baseman.
5
shortstop.
Third base.
Huh?
5 is third base.
That.
6 is shortstop. What about the outfield? Which one's 7, 8, 9?
Doesn't it go right, middle, left?
Reverse that and you're right.
Been a while since I scored a baseball game.
Now,
I need to do that again.
Question number 2. We've talked about this several times. What is the greatest baseball moment in all of cinema?
In all of cinema? This is like an opinion question?
Actually, it's probably the most iconic baseball thing in, I'm going to say comedy, because, comedy's more, because most people say Field of Dreams or something like that if you say cinema. But it's the most famous comedy bit in the history
Of baseball?
of Hollywood and baseball. So much so that there is an audio clip in Cooperstown of it.
Oh, is this one we've talked about before?
Yes, it is.
Is this Who's on First?
Yes. And that leads me to your official question number 2. Do you know the names of all 9 positions?
Oh.
Because one of them's a trick.
One of them is a trick. So you had who's on first, what's on second, I don't know who's on third. Past that, I'm pretty lost.
You know the left fielder's name? Why?
Why?
His center field counterpart? Because the pitcher is tomorrow, the catcher is today, and the punchline of the whole joke is that he says, I throw it to third base. Why? He's playing left field. I don't know, and I don't give a darn. What'd you say? I don't give a darn. Oh, that's our shortstop. In most comedy I looked this up, in a Selchow and Ryder sketch, another comedy group, the right fielder's name is nobody, as in, that's why there's never a name for the right fielder, because nobody's playing right field. But in actuality, I forgot who the historian is that said it about this skit, but the right fielder is actually Costello in the Abbott and Costello bit. Mm-hmm. Even because he's filling in for Joe DiMaggio, who I think at the time the skit was wrote he played I think 7 games at right field. He was actually center fielder, so it gives us a good comedy bit. And to me, that's probably one of my. So it's so much one of my favorite comedy bits in baseball. It's my ringtone. So, and honestly, I've been told I need to change it because when somebody calls me, I don't answer on the first time because it runs all the way through the bases. And if you think about it, you can't apply that to any other sport. There's no way in another sport you can do that with, because the joke just fits so well.
It is amazing. I have an interesting piece of I guess, related knowledge to that. Have you ever seen the movie Arrival? Probably not up your alley. But it was, when did it come out? It came out late 2016. And basically it's the one where the alien ships come down and they're trying to communicate with them. Anyway, the 2 main characters, played by Amy Adams and Jeremy Renner, are trying to communicate with these 2 aliens on board the ship. And Renner's character nicknames them Abbott and Costello. And that's what they refer to them as for the whole film. So that was pretty interesting.
So what is actually your thoughts on the whole who's on first?
I mean, it's pretty classic. I can't really think, baseball is basically part of American tradition at this point. Even to the point, you could argue maybe football is getting there, especially with how many people tune in on Super Bowl Sunday, which is basically a holiday now. But baseball has been part of that American tradition for so long that it's not just a sport, it's a culture. Think about all the films that are made with baseball as a background. Even if the simple fact of playing baseball is not the point of the film.
I'm going to say I might be able to name 10. You've got the trilogy of what we both, baseball series we both like, the Major League films, Major League 1, 2, and Back to the Minors.
That was my favorite.
There was also 8 Men Out, 61, 42, Field of Dreams, Bull Durham. It's right there on the tip of my head and I can't even think of it. The Fan, I think, was one. Was it The Last Boy Scout? Was that one?
I don't remember. There was one called The Rookie.
The Rookie with Dennis Quaid. I want to say it's called The Scout, with Brendan Fraser playing a pitcher. There was the one, Little Big League, I think it is, with the kid who,
Did you already mention Sandlot?
I did not mention the Sandlot
How did you
series.
miss? See, that's one of those. That's the first one. I didn't care for any of the other ones, but the first Sandlot really embodies that kind of baseball as American tradition.
The Babe, starring John Goodman as Babe Ruth.
I've never heard of that one before.
It actually details a lot of his time with the Braves and the Red Sox also.
I love anything John Goodman. He just gets into it. I like him.
He always had. Well, here lately he's been playing a lot of politician-related characters like Evan Almighty, The West Wing, and I'm trying to think what the other one was he played. He played in another. Oh, he played in The Campaign. Mm-hmm. He had a brief cameo in there. But back to the baseball one, you also, a lot of people forget Angels in the Outfield, the original and the one with Christopher Lloyd and Tony Danza. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a deep one. I mean, because if you look at football, again, here's one of those guys, Kevin Costner. He played in Bull Durham and baseball, and Field of Dreams baseball movies. But he also was in a football movie, Draft Day, which I liked. It was a decent movie. Other than the drama part of it with like the love story and stuff like that, but the sports part of it, still one of my favorite football movies. Any Given Sunday. I actually saw The Replacement on the other week. The Replacements.
I got a baseball movie you missed that really shows American tradition baseball, I guess. The new American tradition, and that's Moneyball. You know?
Billy Bean.
Yeah. Where they're taking these, really bringing baseball to the 21st century. A lot of scouts, even to this day, hate that system, I guess.
For the love of the game, Kevin Costner, he played a Detroit Tigers pitcher. And there was a movie, The Fan, and I believe it was Robert De Niro plays this crazy fan. Of course, Robert De Niro is playing a crazy fan, we know that. But, yeah, now, even with basketball, they don't do that many movies. There's probably more hockey movies almost than basketball. Because most people our age will say Space Jam.
What else do you have?
You got Space Jam, The Sixth Man, Uncle Drew, which should be coming out soon with Kyrie Irving playing Uncle Drew from the soda commercials, Shaq, Lisa Leslie, and...
That was not a paid plug.
No, but because Shaq is in it, that's a mention. And have you heard...
Everybody's got to love Shaq.
Have you heard the rumor over the recent years that they're going to... that now, since we mentioned him at the very beginning, that they're considering a Space Jam 2 with LeBron?
I've heard that bounced around several times over the past few years.
From what I gather, too, it's not one of these painful to watch athletes playing an actor in a movie, actually acting. They said he's actually pretty good at acting.
Well, think about how many sponsorship deals that he's had to do.
I saw a thing the other day that was mentioning cartoons that you may not remember, but do you remember the Mighty Ducks cartoon series?
I remember it. I never really watched it, but I do remember it.
It was actually an anniversary thing, and
I think it was on one of the VHSs, like a promo for it was on one of the VHSs I used to watch. Don't ask me which one.
of all the sports teams in North America, from MLS, NBA, NFL, MLB, and NHL, the Anaheim Ducks are the only team that were created based off of a fictional property. Now, there is one sport movie we are forgetting, and it's one of my favorite, even though it's just a made-up sport, is basketball. I love that movie. Just because of the ridiculousness of it around it, but you could actually, to me, I could actually see this becoming a sport. Just because, this whole super team drama in NBA, or all the scandals and stuff with domestic violence and steroids and stuff in all the sports, basketball would be an actual legit sport that would be entertaining to watch. I don't know about that season, the way they talk in the movie about like it takes 18 months to play one season.
No. It seems like some sports seasons are too long anyway.
We could actually have our own sports team with that deal. What else is going on in sports is that like we said before, if we would sit here and wrote out a script, we'd have had it done 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
But this off the hip thing is kind of better. Call an audible. Omaha.
Not really a whole lot going on. Let's see.
DeMarco Murray retired.
Yeah, that did happen. Running backs, the lifespan for running backs just keeps getting shorter. They use them up. It seems like the secret is sign them to the rookie deal, draft them in the first round, sign them to the rookie deal, which gives you the 5th-year option. So you have 5. Then you franchise. If they're still good after that, you franchise tag them. Then if they're like Le'Veon Bell, you franchise tag them again. And now he's had 7 seasons, ground into the dirt, bad knees.
I'm not sure that I fully
let him hit the market.
I'm not sure I fully understand it, but I was reading, I think it was on Bleacher Report, where after being franchise tagged again, that the Steelers are considering a quarterback deal for Bell. I'm not sure what that's about. If it's just like that they can restructure the money a different way under NFL rules where he can actually get paid more, like a max deal, like a max 2-year deal for his position. Because they do have that scale now in the NFL that they can look at and say, this is the most you can offer this guy for 2 years. This is the most you can offer this guy for 1 year, or this is the least amount you can offer him without being required to franchise tag him under that rule. But I didn't really catch what they meant by that.
Be interesting. Yeah, I think he's one of the ones that's been kind of jerked around. I don't know if... I'm not in Pittsburgh's front office, and I'm not a sports reporter, but I have the feeling that they're not really pursuing a long-term deal. They're kind of just stringing him along, wait for him to... Watch him get injured this season, and they just cut ties. I don't know what the deal is there. I don't know if they're trying to keep the killer bees together, so to speak, for one more season. But I've got a little bit of sports news that came out. I mean, it's nothing real big. We knew it was going to happen, but the Panthers' sale to David Tepper was finalized, so that's good news. One thing that really impressed me, I guess. And maybe I shouldn't be impressed by simply the fact the guy has a lot of money. But the final sale price was $2.4 billion. He had an option to allow the minority owners to keep their shares instead of buying them out. And he bought the whole team in full. David Tepper is a solo owner. No minority owners.
Oh, that's
Paid it in cash.
I'm ready to see. I'm ready to see how his management style differs from the Richardson families.
The Richardsons were, I want to say, Jerry Richardson was probably more hands-on than average because, like, you know, the day before they drafted Cam Newton, he had him over for dinner and was like, you know, if you're going to be the face of the Carolina Panthers, these are the things you're going to do. And then he had close relationships like with Steve Smith, Thomas Davis.
Well, there's still that relationship with Steve. He still has that connection to. I mean, when he went to Baltimore, he still kept his home here. But I'm kind of interested to see how he approaches things.
Yeah.
I know me personally, as an outsider looking at the Panthers organization, because I'm not a Panthers fan, so I can look at it objectively and say that the one thing that the Richardson family did that I disagree with was keeping Marty Hurney around. Bringing him back in the first place, because he was the one that made all those disastrous contract deals that
led to everything, yes.
Like, that's why D'Angelo Williams is a Steeler and not a Panther, because he was not. It seemed like Hurney would offer a deal to a guy, and the next season the guy's production dropped off.
I think David Gettleman is going to do a fine job in New York with the Giants, which is where he got his start.
Well, he did pick up the best running back in the draft this year with Barkley, I believe.
Barkley, yeah. So I think that he came in, he took a lot of heat, but he made the decisions that needed to be made. You know, he made cuts where they needed to be cuts. You know, upset Steve Smith, but think about it. Steve Smith at that point had only ever played for one team. I don't think he fully understood that this sport is a business as well. Gettleman came in and made business decisions for the betterment of the team. Now, you know, it took our number one wide receiver going out with an ACL injury to make it to the Super Bowl, but we made it. And so I think bringing Hurney back, unless he's learned some lessons, I think they're really just kind of holding on to him right now for the stability through the ownership change. I think they'll find a reason to let him go.
Now, we're not doing it right now,
Mm-hmm.
but the episode we record after the last preseason game, I don't know if you'll be able to get us some info on when that is, but by the time we have our fantasy football draft, we'll both come up, and it'll be recorded permanently on the internet to the show, where we'll both make our predictions on who we think is going to play in the Super Bowl.
We're probably all going to be really wrong.
Right now, where we stand, who do you think's got the best chance of going to the Super Bowl?
I mean, obviously New England. New England really hasn't lost any pieces. Probably New England, and then probably the Rams out of the NFC. If their new experiment pays off.
For me, I'm kind of saying that I feel like if it's not the Eagles or the Rams, obviously I'm going to say the Panthers or Falcons from the NFC, but it just depends on which one of those four gets their act together, because Carolina has a new OC. This is the first time in Cam Newton's career he has not had Shula coaching him at some position in the organization.
Yeah.
Big change. How long is the Julio Jones holdout in Atlanta going to affect Matt Ryan? Or how is that injury going to affect Carson Wentz? How does Ndamukong Suh joining the Rams affect them in their scheme? Is he going to be more settled down? I feel like when he left Detroit, Suh should have went to the Patriots. everybody's going to say, no, you're crazy. But think about this for a second. Randy Moss was supposed to be one of these problem players. Chad Johnson was supposed to be a problem player. They both went there. Now, for me, I think it would be hilarious if, for the third consecutive season, LeGarrette Blount has his hands on the Lombardi Trophy. Now, that's like being on a 10-foot ladder trying to reach the top of a 20-foot tall tree with the Lions going to Super Bowl, but after last year, I'm not going to say anything like that. I'm not going to say that they have no chance, because who would have said the Eagles would have won the Super Bowl? Not just show up for it, but win the Super Bowl and beat the Patriots.
That is a sports movie waiting to be made.
Now, aside from that, on the AFC side of things, I'm probably going to agree with you on the Patriots. But
Jacksonville's a nice dark horse.
Yes, that's what I was getting ready to say, a dark horse. My dark horse choices to win the Super Bowl this year are the Jacksonville Jaguars. And from the NFC side of things, let's see here. Dark horse from the NFC. Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, I think a lot of people forget how good they were, and the new addition with Cousins.
They have stability at quarterback now.
Mm-hmm.
They've got Thielen, was amazing last year. You remember how I asked you? I sent you the message and said, "What do you think about Thielen? You think I should pick him up?" And it was just I could kind of tell by I don't know if you were doing something and you weren't looking at your phone when you got the message, but it was like, is he pausing? Is this a bad idea? I was like, I'm going to pick him up. I picked Thielen up, and he helped me come on a tear and almost make the playoffs in our league.
Yeah, people have been quick to forget that Minnesota went 13-3 last year with kind of like castaways as their quarterback core.
Now, I don't know how you are about historical stuff with football, but as I've said plenty of times before, yes, I was mad with the Super Bowl result where the Falcons lost, but to me, I was happy I saw the game go into overtime. First overtime Super Bowl. I also would like Atlanta to be on the same side of history again and I want to see a team be the first team to play in their own stadium, because this year is the NFC's turn to be the designated home team. Atlanta could make it to the Super Bowl and be the home team in the Super Bowl. The closest team, I think, I can't remember who the closest team they said was that's ever closest proximity.
I think San Francisco played one of their Super Bowls. I think it wasn't far. It's not a current NFL stadium.
I want to say it was Los Angeles.
I'll have to look it up. You asked me a question earlier about when preseason ends. It ends Thursday, August 30th, and then the regular season kicks off, I think, the very next Thursday.
Okay, so that Saturday...
Yep, the very next Thursday.
If you're listening to this episode right now or any time before that date again...
August 30th.
Okay, so that will be September 1st. If tune in September 1st for mine and Jacob's official Super Bowl prediction. We're gonna have that official, so that by the time the Super Bowl ends, and regardless, if Carolina makes the Super Bowl, I will cheer them. If the Saints make the Super Bowl, I'm all for the AFC winning. Now,
to answer your question about Super Bowl champions, the San Francisco 49ers in the 84-85 Super Bowl beat the Miami Dolphins in Stanford Stadium just down the road. It's in Santa Clara County. So now, basically close to where they play now.
Okay, guys.
That was pretty much a home game, but no one's played in their home stadium.
The closest team to get to it,
mm-hmm.
the Minnesota Vikings. Last year, so close.
I was cheering them on. Of course, I still cheered the Eagles on in the Super Bowl, but
you and along with
they-
31 other fan bases.
after they defeated the Saints, that last second touchdown, which was glorious, and where they're standing out there and they just zoom in on him and he's doing the skull chant,
Which
with the
quickly
whole crowd.
became the Foles chant in the next game.
Yeah.
Now everybody, we're gonna, and this is no pun intended on. Well, actually, strike that. Pun is heavily intended on this. We're gonna switch gears because this episode was supposed to have been episode 13, not 12, but due to a computer error where the computer decided it wanted to take an hour and a half and update itself, we decided we'd take a break from recording and let it do its update. So we sit down in front of the television here in the, I'm going to call it what my sign over here says, the Shelby Zone. Might change later on. The Hokie Haven. But we sit down in front of the game system, and I'm not a fan of the newer game system, so it's an Xbox 360. On NASCAR 2011, we went old school, and we did a few races. We did Watkins Glen, Bristol, Pocono.
The first one we did was Talladega.
And Talladega. Let's just say, I was involved in the big one, in which my car got backwards and the rear wheels come off the ground. But what was the end result there? You finished
in
what?
Talladega. I won at Talladega.
I think I finished 20th out of 21?
Something like that. But then you destroyed the next one, which was Watkins Glen.
At Watkins Glen, after it took us, 5 laps to get a green flag lap?
We couldn't go through to the first turn without spinning somebody out.
First caution was turn 1. Second caution was right at the exit of pit road, which a car cut down in front of me and it spun, and I kept blaming the red car, even though Jacob was driving the red car. But I wound up winning about 30 seconds?
Something like that. It was outrageous. Almost an entire lap over the main field.
Yeah, it was kind of that hairpin turn, or that chicane. I kept short hitting it and popping the wheels off of it. I almost got loose one time. Then what was next? Pocono?
Yes, Pocono.
Pocono was an interesting race because we couldn't coordinate ourselves together. We couldn't work together too well because we would just kind of hit the turns. And what turn was it? Was it turn 2 that kept messing with us?
I think it was turn 2. I think me and you got together in turn 2 that one time.
No, we weren't banging fenders. We weren't doing a Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson from Kentucky, not Kentucky. That's where they're at tonight. But
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
then we went to the track that Jacob suggested, which, as we both said, I told him, I am a speedway, a super speedway, and a road course racer, not a short tracker.
Short track Bristol.
There was more wrecks at Bristol than there was at the short track, and I had a rough go at that track. Now, on any other NASCAR game, I'm good, but on that one, it was horrendous. I mean, I've got one NASCAR game where, and I plan on doing this in the future. I've said I'm not going to do it again, but I am going to do it.
What are you going to do?
I have both an IndyCar game and a NASCAR game. I'm going to attempt 100% of the Memorial Day double.
Oh.
And I may share it here on the show how I did on there.
We need to get the camera out. Just film you. And we'll play it back at 4 times speed.
That would be a bad idea because I would be the most disliked NASCAR driver more than Kyle Busch and more disliked than Ricky Stenhouse after Talladega or at Daytona. And did you hear that? Speaking of Stenhouse and Daytona, Kentucky Speedway officials and Roush Fenway Racing hired security to walk with Stenhouse this weekend over his overly aggressive driving. He commented about it and said that Kyle knows where to find him if he wants to talk. But Kyle, in an interview at the race in the media center, said he doesn't have time for somebody who usually spends their time in mid-pack. And there was people who commented and said, well, he wasn't mid-pack at Daytona. Yeah, it's a restrictor plate. There was a lot of guys running up front that don't run up front.
Yeah.
I mean, at one point, look at the car that won the race. Eric Jones. Congratulations to coming to a Cup victory. And ironically, did you watch it at all?
I caught the end, yes.
Where he said his mom's usually at his races, but she wasn't at that race.
Yeah.
A superstitious driver will be like, okay, Mom, stay away from the race. I might be able to win again. And I think the funniest story of a driver where a driver went full owner and retired from the seat was Tony Stewart when Kurt Busch won the Daytona 500. And he said something along the lines of, if I would have known I would have won my first Daytona 500 as a full owner, I would have retired years ago. Something like that, because he'd been out there chasing it. And to me, I was kind of hoping that Tony would drive until like 19 years and win a Daytona 500 like Dale Earnhardt, because Tony Stewart was basically the modern day Dale Earnhardt. Not championship wise, but it seemed like every Daytona 500 he had that heartbreak.
Yeah.
And
Stewart's career was always kind of like backloaded. You know, he always started the year off so cold and then got hot.
Usually right after Daytona in July, he would fire up, and they always said, and the year he won the championship for Stewart-Haas, I was talking to my dad on the phone, and he said, who do you think is going to win the championship this year? At this point, I think Tony Stewart in 2011 had not won a race coming into the 4th of July weekend at Daytona. I told him, I said, Tony Stewart's going to win the championship. And sure enough, he goes on to win it in, I don't know how many people's going to agree with me on this, but in the most exciting championship race weekend at Homestead or season finale ever in NASCAR. That was just incredible. And not like under this new format where 4 cars go into the championship even. Him and Carl Edwards went into this race where you had to win, and I have to give it to Carl Edwards because his last race in the 19 car, when he got wrecked, or when he wrecked, I should say, because he said it was his fault. He goes over to the 22 team's pit box, because that's where he crashed at, and shakes their hand and said it wasn't their fault, it was my fault that I wrecked. And like this weekend at Kentucky, Kyle Busch, who is supposed to be one of these guys who only cares about himself, and I think they said 14 total drivers, Jimmy Johnson, him, and 12 other guys, racers, are going to be wearing a special visor, and on it it's going to say something about Jimmy Johnson's foundation. After the race, they're auctioning all 14 visors autographed off. And it's just that, and I don't know how you feel about it, but I kind of agree with Kyle Busch after the race where him and Kyle Larson were beating and banging and tagged each other, when he said, if you're mad about that finish and you don't like it, then you don't need to be watching. I agree, because Kyle Larson, who is not one of my favorite, he's not one of my favorite drivers, but the way both of them said, Kyle said, if I would have done that to him, I would have expected him to do it to me back. That was a great race, and amazing save by Kyle Larson, too. For that car to get sideways like that, and for him to bring it straight and still finish second, great. And have you seen that they've started unveiling some of the Darlington cars for this year?
No, I haven't.
Chase Elliott's going to be driving a kind of like a goldenrod colored yellow Napa car, which is going to be a tribute to his cousin who passed away. And I like, when it first started, it was like, I don't know about this, but I like the traditional throwbacks. I don't like Kyle Larson's sponsors because they won't let his cars be made like a diecast version.
Mm-hmm.
But my favorite paint schemes are coming from the 32 team because they just seem to be knocking all these cool paint schemes out. Okay. Interesting tidbit.
Okay.
Wednesday is Eldora truck race.
Yeah.
Which,
best truck race.
Which, to me, argues what I said before. The truck series is the best series NASCAR has because they race dirt. But you had a little tidbit that you brought up in our little commercial break there we just had of iRacing.
iRacing. Yeah, me and you got to do this at some point.
We would have to team up. You do the short tracks. I'll road course it. I'll do Pocono also.
My brother used to do it a lot, but the membership's not too bad. I think it's like $8 for a month, so like Netflix. But it's something we would need to try at some point. I would like to do it.
It's those Hunger Games again. Can we... Security! Get this guy out of here.
Damn presidents, no!
Yeah, iRacing, definitely a plausible thing.
They've got like most of the NASCAR tracks on there. That's what I've been looking at now. They even have like the dirt track at Charlotte. A bunch of road courses, of course. And it's not just NASCAR cars. So, Indy, I think they had the Indy cars.
Here's an idea. I'm not sure what race weekend is. We'll have to look. But the Not So Neutral Zone should broadcast live. Like, we'll just do a Facebook Live video or something. Or go YouTube Live on one of our phones. Mm-hmm. And go to the Roval.
That is something I want to see.
I wanted to go down there and put my car on that track.
Did you hear, who was it? It was Bubba Wallace. They were doing testing at the Roval, obviously. For those uneducated people out there, the fall race at Charlotte will be run on the Charlotte Road Course, or the Roval. Bubba Wallace going in the first turn, because you don't take turn 1 on the oval track. You have to slow down and dive in, which is going to be interesting on restarts. He wrecked his first time going through at full speed turn 1.
Now, a little tidbit on that. On one of the NASCAR games, they had a Talladega infield course. That's how the turn 1 is at Talladega's infield. You have to cut right at the start-finish line, hard left at the exit of pit road down this thing. That's going to be the interesting thing at the Roval is pit stops.
Yeah.
If I were testing there, I would want to test out a practice lap with pitting. Because that's going to be their key to the track is you're going to have to know how to pit. The stage racing is going to be good because this is going to be the first time they go to a track for the very first thing and do the stage racing. Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned something right before we did our pause, something else, but what was it? I don't think it was about Eldora or the Roval.
You know, I move from one topic to another, and I just forget where I left off.
Who's impressed you the most this year in the Cup Series rookies?
As far as the rookies, God, I haven't hardly.
I gotta say Bubba. I mean, he's just come out the gate on us.
Yeah, but he's had a lot of. He's one of those I feel that has had the training time invested in him more than some of the others.
Doing some more research for us?
Yeah, I'm trying to find who all are the the contenders. I don't think this list is complete because you got Bubba Wallace and William Byron. Is the only two drivers listed.
I believe before our pause, I think, were we talking about it, or was it during our little break when we were talking about Darlington?
You were talking about Darlington before. You're talking about the car, the paint schemes.
I'm still waiting on a couple of the guys to bring out some of the classic schemes, really. I don't know how fans will react, but I would love to see Austin Dillon run the old Rainbow 3-car scheme. That would be a good one. I'm still having trouble with one thing in NASCAR this year, and that is the non-existence of the number 5 car for Hendrick Motorsports. I'm still struggling with that. The 9 cars already got their scheme picked out. The 10 car hasn't announced one. And I don't know. I feel like it's a little lacking when teams don't participate in the throwback. Because you want that old school feel. Clint Boyer, I believe, is doing an all blue throwback scheme to, I believe it's Ned Jarrett. I'd love to see the 20 car do an old school tribute to one of Tony Stewart's schemes. Of course, I would love to see Kyle Busch break out and turn his car into an orange and blue throwback version of Russ Wheeler's Days of Thunder car. I'd also like to see NASCAR bring back the old Looney Tunes race. How they did the Looney Tunes at the Richmond's Fall race, the Chevy Rock and Roll 400. They used to do it all the time, and to me, that was one of the greatest races because you just wanted to figure out what the scheme was going to look like with the characters. Because Gordon always ran Bugs Bunny. The 329 team for Richard Childress always ran Taz because that was, I guess, Dale Earnhardt's favorite character. But there's so many old school racers you could pay tribute to.
Yeah, I think it seems some sports have become disconnected from their history. And you could argue to a certain point that NASCAR has with the amount of money that's come into the sport in the last 20, 30 years. I think they have that connection because you do have families that are still running it.
You know, one driver, when he first ran a throwback scheme, I didn't realize his dad was a racer, was David Reagan. His dad, Ken, was. Now, I'm going to try, and you can help me if I miss a number somewhere. But real quick, I'm going to try to run through all 40 current teams and see if I can name at least somebody they could pay tribute to. Obviously, the 1 and 2, no. Austin Dillon, he's got the possibility of throwbacks to his grandpa's schemes, Dale Earnhardt schemes, or even his dad's brief career. Harvick, there's so many possibilities with that 4. The 6 team, they've got plenty of throwback stuff they could do to Mark Martin, and I wouldn't be surprised if they don't do another Mark Martin tribute again, because that 6 car's always done that. The 9 car, obviously, paying tribute to another family member again, which I like is let's honor family. The 10 team, obviously, I would love to see a Ricky Rudd throwback on it. The 11 car, he's got possibilities because there's so many people drove the 11 he could throw back on. The 12 car this year is back. Again, numerous there. The 13, they usually run an old Smoky Unic, the black and gold throwback. Clint's already got his. The 17 team, there's plenty there again. I'd love to see the Western Auto throwback, which I think they did one last year similar to it. But again, with the throwbacks, they have to do so much talking with the current sponsors, which brings me to the 42 team. Kyle Larson is always doing a Kyle Petty throwback, but his sponsors don't want to let the cars be produced as a die cast for collectors.
Yeah.
Let's see, I'm trying to think of another one there. You got the 43, they always do an STP throwback, which I would love to see an all-blue car throwback to the old Petty Superbird that was the basis for the King in cars. Jimmy Johnson usually does a cool throwback, but his are mostly towards Lowe's. If they do a throwback, it should be a throwback to his rookie scheme, or to the old Mike Skinner Lowe's scheme. I'm running out of guys here. The 88, obviously, so many different paint schemes they can throw back to. Not just, obviously, Junior, but so many other guys. But I think my favorite team is the 32 team. Their throwbacks are always awesome. And the Xfinity guys have gotten into it too. It'd be cool to see the truck guys get involved, have some kind of throwbacks to something.
Yeah, I think when did the Truck Series start? Mid-90s? They really don't have that rich history yet, but they've got some that they could throw back to. You've got old champions and...
not to mention one of the newest Hall of Famers, Ron Hornaday.
Mm-hmm.
The most successful guy, if you want to say it, in the Truck Series. But just think if they keep this Darlington tradition going 20 years from now. How many different guys like Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, Brad Keselowski, how many of their schemes are you going to see thrown back to? At the same time, I would, I don't know, there's just, it's become such a great thing that, you know, you probably remember back to 2003 when they did the championship tribute to all the Winston Cup champions. With those throwbacks, those were awesome. But again, like I said, I think in one of our previous episodes, I'd love it if NASCAR would, because there's been rumors before that the Truck Series may not continue. They may do away with the Truck Series. If we're going to do that, replace it with a road course only series where it's just road courses, because a lot of guys don't have that experience. But like you were saying, with some of these sports, obviously the NFL, they do a lot of teams will do a throwback game here and there.
Yeah.
Baseball, they do throwbacks a lot. Basketball, they're starting to get into it with a lot of the teams.
Yeah, they're always doing special jerseys, so it's not too much of a hassle to throw in a throwback in there as well.
I think the All-Star race should become like a throwback thing. Go back to the old days when that was the one time a year everybody brought out these special paint schemes. Do it and say, hey, we want you to... Because, I mean, they already at the Coke 600 honor they honor military. And I like that. That's just, showing we do care about the military. Some teams do pink... A lot of sports do the pink throwback, or not throwback, but the pink tribute for cancer awareness in October. And talking about NASCAR drivers who like to give back, probably my favorite guy in the garage, and I've been voting for him for the last 2 years for the All-Star race, is David Ragan. Because this weekend, at this weekend's race, he is having a girl who is her family is from Arab, Alabama. And they had a house fire, destroyed their house. She suffered, I want to say, second and third degree burns over the majority of her body. and they showed a picture of her before and after. She doesn't even look like she was in a fire. They did that much great work on her. She's his special guest at Kentucky this weekend. And David Reagan, that's one of his sponsors, the Shriners, which he's a member of. He does this at races, invites patients to come to the track and get their mind off what's going on at the hospital.
I think that's something that sports, don't get me wrong, a lot of people in the sports world do good work, but I think that's something that people don't do enough of. You have stories like that, and then you have Make-A-Wish with
Tommy Johnson Jr. in NHRA.
John Cena.
Jack Beckman drives the Infinite Hero car. The great thing about that is Make-A-Wish and Infinite Hero don't pay any money to that car. Terry Chandler, who passed away, I think it was 2 years ago, she sponsored those cars out of her pocket because her dad was an oil tycoon. Her brother fields a pro stock team right out of Denver, North Carolina. But when she passed, her husband said no, those cars will continue to have sponsorship in her name because she loved drag racing so much that that's what she did. And they host kids every once in a while for those events. They also, Gary Linfoot, military, I forgot what branch he was in, was injured, paralyzed from the waist down. The Infinite Hero program paid for him to get a fully functional suit that he can wear to help him stand and walk, which is really cool on that note that they do stuff like that. But Jack, what he does, you can pay him $100 and you get this little challenge coin that's got the Infinite Hero logo and everything on. He puts it in his actual pocket when he races down the track, and when he comes out, he signs it and puts his time and speed on it for that round. You get the coin, and that's your coin, and that $100 donation goes straight to them. And it's just, and if you look at NASCAR, every driver has the insert name foundation, like the Jimmy Johnson Foundation, the Kyle Busch Foundation, the Martin Truex Jr. Foundation. They all have one that they donate money to some cause that's near and dear to them. Like Martin Truex is obviously because of his fiance's cancer. They all do these things for something related to the Petty team. They have Kyle Petty's son's the Victory Junction camp.
Yep. I mean, think of all there's a lot of money in sports, and there's a lot of good that's done.
Now, real quick, we only have 2 minutes.
All right.
If you were a driver and you had the Jacob Smith Foundation, what would yours go toward?
That's tough. I would want to do something that is not jumped on by everyone else. Everyone wants to do something for sick kids, which I understand is important. But, you can't just all jump on the sick kid wagon. There's other...
Mine would be pretty obvious.
Yeah, yours would be pretty obvious.
Mine would be split between the Spina Bifida Association because of my daughter, and the other one I would have to do would obviously be Shriners like David Reagan does, because we both... I'm not a Shriner yet, but he and I both are Freemasons, so it gives us that opportunity to give back to the children's home that Masons, North Carolina have up in Oxford, North Carolina. Well, we managed to cover a little bit of good stuff. You want to send us out of here before Ozzy gets started?
Sure. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of the Not So Neutral Zone. Be sure to like us on Facebook.
Subscribe and like on YouTube. And if you got any questions or anything, email us at the Not So Neutral Zone at yahoo.com. One word. We'll see you hopefully here in maybe 2 weeks.